The python deity was waiting for its bride. Adanna was dying. The villagers had accepted her fate. Then, a strange young man raised his hand, shouted, "Wait!" And what happened next, no one in Amaeke was prepared for. The village had judged her. The whispers had spread. And before Adanna knew it, she had become a living curse in the eyes of Amaeke. Adanna ran into the hut that day, her legs weak, her breath heavy, her heart pounding like a drum inside her chest. Behind her, the angry voices outside slowly faded, but inside her head, they grew louder. "Bring her out. That girl is cursed. She kills every man who comes near her." Adanna stumbled into the corner of the hut. Her hands covered her face. Her shoulders shook, and tears burst out of her like a river that could no longer be held back. Reri rushed to her immediately. A mother's eyes do not need explanation. One look at her daughter, and she knew. This was no ordinary crying. This was a heart-breaking. Reri knelt beside her, held her tightly, and let her cry. Moments later, Elder Oko entered quietly. But the strong man who had stood boldly before the villagers was not the same man now. Because inside this hut, he was no elder. He was a father. And before him was his only daughter, destroyed by pain. He said nothing. He only stood there, watching Adanna cry in her mother's arms. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched, his eyes darkened. Outside, Amaeke village returned to its usual noise, but inside Elder Oko's hut, silence sat like death. As evening fell, the fire was lit. Food was prepared, but Adanna did not eat. She sat quietly near the fire, her eyes lost in the flames. Reri sat beside her. Softly, she touched her daughter's hand. "Ne." Adanna did not answer. Reri swallowed hard. "Do not carry all this pain alone." At last, Adanna spoke, her voice low, broken. "Mama," a tear rolled down. "Why is everybody looking at me like I am evil?" Reri looked away, because there was no answer a mother could give to that. Adanna's lips trembled again. "I did not ask for any of this." Her voice cracked. "Why is this happening to me?" Reri pulled her close again. Tears filled her own eyes. But before she could speak, Elder Oko suddenly struck his staff on the ground. Quap! The sound shook the hut. Adanna looked up. Reri turned. Elder Oko rose to his feet. His chest heaved. Pain burned in his eyes. Then slowly, he lifted his face toward the roof, as though speaking to the gods above. His voice thundered. "Gods of our land!" The hut fell silent. "Why do you allow this calamity to fall on my family?" He beat his chest. "What have I done to deserve this?" His voice cracked with pain. "Why my daughter?" Reri lowered her head. Adanna stared at her father, her tears still falling. Elder Oko turned toward the door. His face hardened. His voice became cold, sharp, dangerous. "Whoever is behind this," he pointed his staff toward the darkness outside, "will know no peace." Silence. Even the fire crackled softly. "If it is man, I will find him. If it is woman, I will expose her." He raised his staff. "If it is spirit,
His eyes burned. The gods themselves will answer me. Adanna stared at him. Ureri held her breath. Elder Oko stepped closer to his daughter. His voice softened but remained firm. Listen to me, Adanna. She lifted her swollen eyes. Cry tonight if you must, but do not lose hope. He knelt before her, a father looking into the eyes of his broken child. Your father is not dead. Adanna's lips trembled. Elder Oko continued. Tomorrow, he paused. I will begin. Ureri frowned. Begin what? Elder Oko turned slowly. His face looked like a man going to war. I will search for the truth. I will dig until I find the root of this matter. Because 3 men do not die like this, and I refuse to believe my daughter is the answer. Silence filled the hut. Adanna stared at him, and for the first time that day, something changed in her eyes. Not happiness, no, but something close to hope. Ureri held her daughter's hand tighter. The fire burned low. Outside, Amaeke village slept. But inside, Elder Oko's hut, nobody truly slept. Because one father had made a promise. And deep in his heart, he knew this was bigger than rumors, bigger than whispers, bigger than fear. What Elder Oko did not know was that the truth he was about to uncover would shake Amaeke village.
Morning came, but peace did not return to Amaeke. The death of Obika had shaken the village badly. No one spoke of anything else. Women whispered in low tones. Men gathered in corners. Children were warned to stay away from Elder Oko's compound. Fear had entered Amaeke, and this time it was deeper. Because after the first death, people had talked. After the second, they had worried. But after Obika's death, even the strongest men became afraid. This was no longer coincidence. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Inside his hut, Elder Oko sat quietly. His staff rested beside him, but his heart was restless. 3 young men, 3 deaths, all after coming for Adanna. Ureri sat on the floor nearby, her eyes swollen from crying. This cannot be ordinary, she whispered. Elder Oko said nothing, because deep down, he too was afraid. Then suddenly, a voice called from outside. Elder Oko! Ureri quickly looked toward the door. A village messenger stood outside, breathing heavily. He bowed slightly. The Indiche are gathered. A pause. They have sent for you. Silence filled the hut. Elder Oko slowly stood up. He picked up his staff. Without another word, he followed the messenger. At the village gathering place, the Indiche were already seated. Chiefs of Amaeke, men whose words carried weight in the land. Their faces were grave. No smiles, no small talk. Elder Oko greeted them respectfully and sat. Silence hung in the air. Then the eldest among them spoke. Elder Oko? His voice was calm but heavy. What is happening in your household has become the concern of Amaeke. A pause. Another chief leaned forward. After Obika's death, this can no longer be called coincidence. Silence deepened. Elder Oko lowered his eyes. One of the chiefs spoke again, this time softer. Adanna is on for our daughter.
A pause. Whatever is wrong, we will find out together. Those words hit Eldauko deeply. For the first time, his shoulders dropped slightly, but the fear in his chest remained. Another chief cleared his throat. This matter has gone beyond what men can explain. He looked around, then said the name quietly. Agbara, the great seer, will help us. Silence dropped instantly. Even the wind seemed to pause. The blind seer of Amaeke, a man feared by many because he saw what ordinary eyes could not. The eldest chief nodded slowly. If there is truth hidden in darkness, Agbara the great seer will bring it out. Not long after, Eldauko and some of the chiefs made their way through a narrow path in Amaeke, deep into a quiet part of the village, to the compound of Agbara. The place was still, unnaturally still. No birds, no voices, only silence. Inside, Agbara sat on a low stool, blind, motionless, yet his presence filled the room. Before anyone spoke, Agbara's voice came out, deep, cold. I know why you have come. Eldauko froze. The chiefs exchanged uneasy glances. Agbara slowly lifted his head. Though his eyes saw nothing, it felt like he was looking straight into them. Then he spoke again, low, setting. The dead young men, a pause, did not die by human hands. Silence crashed into the room. Eldauko's breath caught. His fingers tightened around his staff. Agbara's face remained still. Then his next words landed like thunder. Your daughter, a long pause, was claimed.
Silence fell. Heavy silence. No one under that thatched roof moved. Even the Indiichie, men whose hearts had faced battle and death, sat frozen, because what Agbara had just spoken did not sound like the matter of men. Elder Uko blinked slowly. His lips trembled. Claimed? The word barely escaped his mouth. Agbara turned his blind face towards him, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of ancient truth. A powerful deity, a python spirit, claimed your daughter long ago. The word struck Elder Uko straight like thunder. His knees weakened instantly. His staff shook violently in his hand. One of the chiefs quickly held him, because Elder Uko could no longer stand firmly. His face drained. No, he whispered. No, this cannot be. Agbara remained still, like a man speaking what had already been written. Then he continued. The day her mother took her into the forest, silence deepened. That day, your daughter should have died. Elder Uko froze. That memory flashed in his mind. That terrible day, that forest, that cry. Agbara's voice grew heavier, but her life was saved. A pause, and nothing saves for nothing. Shock fell upon everyone there. Agbara slowly lifted his face. A python spirit took her life and gave it back. Another pause. But in return, it claimed her. A chief gasped loudly.
Another covered his mouth in disbelief. Elder Uko staggered again. His hand trembled badly. No! Agbara's voice cut through like a blade. From that day, Adanna ceased to belong to ordinary men. Silence swallowed the place. Agbara leaned slightly forward. A spirit watches her. It follows her. And any man who comes for her, his voice dropped, dies. Fear spread across every face. Elder Uko's eyes widened in horror. Then Agbara's final words came, cold, like judgment. No man, a long pause, will ever marry Adanna. Elder Uko let out a broken sound, like something had torn inside him. His legs almost gave way. The chiefs held him tightly. His voice shook. There must be a way. Agbara's face hardened. There is one. Everyone froze. Agbara's voice became lower. On the next Eke market day, Adanna must be taken to the deity. Silence dropped again. Then Agbara added, slowly, carefully, if she is not taken, a pause, then the life that was saved that day will be taken back. Shock hit like lightning. One of the chiefs sprang to his feet. Another cried out under his breath. Elder Uko stared blankly, as if his spirit had left him. Then Agbara's final words came, cold, like judgment. The deity has waited long enough. A pause, and it does not like to be denied. Silence swallowed the inner hut. Elder Uko's staff slipped from his hand and fell on the earth floor. For the first time in his life, the strong man of Amaeke broke.
Elder Oko and the Ndiiche could not believe what Agbara had said. Even as they walked out of the inner hut, silence followed them like a shadow. Elder Oko's face was hard, but inside him, everything was breaking. No, he kept saying under his breath, no, this cannot be. His staff struck the earth harder with each step. Talk, talk, talk. But no sound could silence what he had heard. A python spirit claimed your daughter. No man will marry her. That same night, inside his obi, Elder Oko sat alone. The fire burned low. Agbara's words refused to leave his mind. He closed his eyes tightly. No one must hear this, he whispered. If Riri hears it, she would die of fear. If Adanna hears it, she will not survive it. So he buried it inside him, locked, heavy, silent. The next morning, before fear had settled, Elder Oko left Amaeke. He went to another seer in a neighboring village. He said nothing, only listened, but the answer remained the same. No different voice, no different truth, only one judgment. A deity has claimed your daughter. When he returned to Amaeke, his eyes were red, not from dust, but from truth he could no longer escape. Ureri met him first. Nani, what did they say? Her voice trembled. Adanna, weak on her mat, lifted her eyes. Nam. But Elder Oko raised his hand sharply. Do not ask me anything." His voice was low, but heavy like stone. After a pause, he added to himself quietly, "I will not tell them. It will only bring fear into this hut." Silence fell. Elder Oko looked at him, but did not push further. Adanna said nothing, but something inside her began to feel heavier. The next morning, everything changed. Adanna did not rise from her mat. Her body was burning. Her strength had collapsed overnight. Ureri rushed out in panic. "Nani, come quickly." Elder Oko stepped in and froze. Adanna lay weakly on the mat, her breath uneven, her lips trembling. "Nam," she whispered faintly. Elder Oko's hand shook. He stepped closer. "Nam," Adanna's voice came again, weaker. "Am I going to die?" Silence dropped instantly. Ureri broke into tears. "No, my child." But Adanna's eyes stayed on her father, waiting. Elder Oko turned away because he could not answer her. And that silence was already becoming a verdict. Something snapped inside him. He could no longer wait. He grabbed his staff and rushed out of the hut, dust rising behind his steps, straight to Agbara. He entered the seer's space in desperation. "Agbara!" The blind seer did not move, as if he had already seen everything. Before Elder Oko spoke fully, Agbara lifted his head slightly and said calmly, "It has already begun." Elder Oko froze slightly. Agbara continued, "The spirit is no longer waiting. It is collecting what it claimed." Elder Oko fell slightly forward. "My daughter is dying." His voice broke. Agbara remained still. Silence answered first. Then his voice came, heavy, final. "There is only one way now." Elder Oko lifted his face. Agbara spoke slowly. "You must take her," a pause, "to the deity." Silence shattered everything. Elder Oko staggered backward. "No, my precious daughter." He dropped to his knees. "I cannot lose her." Agbara's voice did not change. "It is not about losing, it is about saving what remains." Elder Oko shook his head violently. "There must be another way." But Agbara answered firmly, "There is no other way left." A long silence followed. Only Elder Oko's broken breathing filled the air. The news spread through Amaeke like wildfire. And this time, no one doubted it anymore. 3 men have died for her. They say no man can marry her. "Ah, we knew it!" Whispers filled every corner of the village. Some shook their heads, others spoke with fear in their voices. She was never ordinary. That beauty was not of this world. Have you ever seen such flawless skin? She is not a child of men. She is the wife of the python deity. Deity's wife. Agbara said it. Wife of the great serpent. Fear and gossip mixed together in the air. Inside the obi, Ureri was on the ground, weeping uncontrollably, her hands shaking. "What have I done?" she cried. "Gods of our land, I only did it to save my child. Must I lose her now?" Her voice broke into dust. Elder Oko stood over her. His face was hard, but his eyes were red. "Woman, enough," he said sharply. "It is too late for tears now." Ureri looked up in shock. He lowered his voice. "If we wait here, she will die. We must take Adanna to the shrine." A pause. "Maybe, just maybe, she will live." He turned immediately and called 2 strong young men from the village. "Carry her," he ordered, "carefully." Adanna could no longer stand. Her body was weak. Her breath was shallow, almost gone. Her eyes half closed, as if life was slipping away slowly. Ureri cried louder, "Nani, don't take her!" But Elder Uko did not stop. His heart was breaking, but fear was pushing him forward. Few Ndinche followed behind them. Silently, heavy steps. No one spoke. Amaeke watched them leave like men following a funeral procession. But this was not death yet. It was something worse. Deep inside the forest path, the air changed. Cold, strange. The trees seemed quieter, as if they were watching. Then they reached it, the Python Shrine. Old, dark, silent. Agbara was already there, waiting, still. Elder Uko fell immediately to his knees. "Great Agbara," his voice broke, "please, beg it to spare my child, my only daughter." Agbara raised one hand. Silence fell. Then slowly he began to chant. Low words, strange words. The ground seemed to answer him. Wind rose suddenly, leaves shook violently, and then the earth moved. Something began to rise, a massive shape, slow at first, then fully, a giant python, black as night, long beyond imagination. But its face was not animal, it was human. A very handsome young man, eyes glowing, calm, cold. The chiefs froze. Some fell backwards, some covered their mouths, others could not even breathe. This was what they had only heard about, never seen, the great deity. Elder Uko collapsed fully to the ground. "Please, the Great One," he cried, "take anything, take my life, please, just spare my daughter." His voice broke completely. But the python did not move. It only watched, waiting. Agbara stood calmly. Then he gestured, "Bring her closer." The men carrying Adanna trembled, but they obeyed. Step by step, they moved closer to the shrine. The python's massive body coiled slowly. The forest held its breath. Just as they were about to place Adanna near the shrine, a voice cut through the air, sharp, thunderous. "Wait!" Sharp, commanding, like thunder cracking the sky. Every head turned, slowly, fearfully. Even the python lifted slightly. At the edge of the shrine stood a young man, very handsome, dust on his feet from a long journey, calm, steady, unshaken. He looked at them all and raised one hand. "Take her one more step," his voice was firm, "and you will all regret it." Silence swallowed everything. No one moved. Not Elder Uko, not Agbara. Even the python stayed still, watching him closely.